Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street. I can't wait to share this episode with you. Today's episode of the Business of Apparel podcast is my very first interview podcast, and I wanted to bring in the owner, founder, and amazing leader at Alpine Parrot, Raquel Vélez. I've been working with Raquel for the last year, and she and I have just continually found ways that we are peas in a pod, very similar with each other. She's like a new sister to me, and it was a really special opportunity to get her to come in and talk to us about how she started Alpine Parrot, what she did with her Kickstarter, and just some of the challenges that she's experienced along the way. She's also just been a guiding light in women's plus-sized apparel for the last several years that she's been in business. She's doing things that people are not doing. And so without further ado, here is my interview with Raquel Vélez. I hope you enjoy. Today, we are talking with Raquel Vélez, a very excellent friend of mine. We've been working together at Alpine Parrot now for a little over a year, which is freaking crazy to me that it's over a year. And today, I really wanted to just introduce her to you guys. This is my very first interview podcast recording, so Raquel is a very special person that I wanted to bring in to do that with. Welcome, Raquel.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have just, of course I was going to be here. There was no question about it whatsoever. I'm super, super excited for you and for this and whatever we can do to have some fun, because I'm always here for that.
Yeah, definitely. I want this to be I think these interviews are just going to be more organic for me than I've been trying to do these videos, and I'm a little bit awkward on video, but with you here to ping ideas back and forth off of, I think it'll be much better, and I'll just be a little bit more myself. So
sounds great.
Cool.
Sounds great. Let's take it away. Let's
dive in. So
let's talk stuff. Yeah.
So so Raquel owns Alpine Parrot, and I want you to kind of give the audience a little bit of an overview of how Alpine Parrot got started and how it kind of became an idea in your heart. And then we'll kind of go from there and talk about some stuff we've worked on together.
Sounds great. Okay. So let's settle in for some story time, because my story is 100% a story.
I love that.
And it basically starts off with, a couple of fun facts. The first one is my family is from Puerto Rico. And I grew up in New Jersey, and I did not grow up outside. The idea of spending time in the outdoors was very foreign to me. Not that being outside was bad, but I just much preferred to read books and explore the world through words. I was that kid.
Kid. We have that in common too. So
yeah, absolutely. And I just remember growing up and being surrounded by all these other people who'd be like, yeah, we're going to go camping. We're going to go skiing. And I was just like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. The joke I like to say is that the idea of voluntarily sleeping on the ground in the cold outside was not my parents' definition of success. And I think that that's really common for people who are either anybody who has poverty in their ancestry, right? This idea of you sleep on the ground when you have nothing else. And it's not something that you choose to do. We worked really hard, or our ancestors worked very hard to get us into houses and things like that. And so anyway, that's an important piece here, because I did not grow up in the outside, and I didn't see the point in it until my late 20s, and I discovered skiing. And I absolutely fell in love. It was the best thing in the entire world. I had dreams of the wind in my face as I was flying down the mountain. It was amazing. And I was like, I'm so into this. But the thing about starting a new sport is that it costs a lot of money to step into something new. Yeah. So the idea of especially for something like skiing, where like skis plus boots plus gear plus lift tickets, it gets very expensive. So I started out because I was like, there's no way I'm going to like this. Puerto Ricans are allergic to snow. These are the stereotypes that I grew up with, right? Like, no. So I borrowed or rented everything and took a lesson. And I was like, I'm going to convince myself that this thing sucks, but let's just try it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like
did
I said,
you spend a day on the bunny hill like I did when I first learned how to ski?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I took a lesson.
Oh, I did too. Yes.
And it was amazing. And then, and like, the thing is though, like the clothes that I was wearing, I literally went skiing in sweatpants under rain pants and a hoodie under a raincoat. Like, because it was like, wear something waterproof. I was like, the only thing I've got that's waterproof is a raincoat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then like, wear something warm. And I was like, layers are warm. I've lived in California long enough. I know how layers work. So I was like, cool, I'll do layers. Anyway, so if it wasn't for the fact that I absolutely fell in love with the sport, I would have been like, well, this is terrible because it's uncomfortable and it's cold and I'm kind of wet every time I fall on my butt. But because I fell in love, I kept going back. And I was just like, okay, it's time for me to invest in a proper like outfit at least. Cause like the wet butt is not pleasant, fun. Especially in the cold.
Yeah.
You don't want a cold, wet butt. Telling it like it is. Yeah. Facts. Don't want a cold, wet
There's
butt.
Our quote for the podcast. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I went to my local retail, like specialty retail store. And I was like, I would like some snow pants, please. And they were like, here are your options. And I couldn't find any that fit. It was just like nothing. And, I'll share a couple of other fun facts. Fact number 1, the average American woman is a size 16 or 18.
Yep.
And fact number 2, 68% of American women are sizes 14 and up. Mm-hmm. Right. And yet, fact number 3, at time of recording,
yes.
This is my new favorite phrase. At time of recording, less than 30% of outdoor apparel is made in plus sizes. So like, you just think about it from a just sheer numbers perspective. It's like, there's a massive hole that needs to be filled because I'm not the only person in a bigger body who wants to go outside.
Yeah.
And the reality is like, cold, wet butts aside, if you want to do more interesting things, you have to actually wear the proper apparel so that you are safe and comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be safe. If you're not wearing the right gear, you're not going to be safe. And there's one thing I think you and I both know, and many people know, is that you do not mess with Mother Nature. Nope. She will kill you if you are not careful.
Yeah. She can
so if you want to be outside. Yeah. So if you want to be outside and have fun, you got to be safe. Hilariously, the same weekend I learned to ski was the weekend I learned to sew.
Oh, no way. That's such a cool
coincidence. Yeah, it's so hilarious. And the reason I learned to sew was because I hate buying jeans. I think that is a universal truth. That and swimsuits.
I agree.
Nobody enjoys buying jeans or swimsuits.
And swimsuits. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the worst.
Yeah.
And my background is in engineering. So I have my degree in mechanical engineering, and then I was a roboticist for a while. And then I went into software, and I was just like, surely I can figure out how to make a pair of jeans. I just need to learn how to sew first, because I never actually, and I was very, very privileged in middle school. I had the option of taking either home ec or wood shop.
Oh.
So I totally chose wood shop. I did not choose home ec. And home ec is where they teach you to cook and sew. I still don't know how to cook. I'm a very good baker, but I'm very bad at cooking. And and I never learned how to sew. So I went and took a class the same weekend I learned to ski, and I made a pillow. And I was like, y'all, this is so easy. I'm so into this.
Look at this amazing
pillow. And I was like, I made this amazing pillow. And I went up to the teacher afterwards. I was like, great, I'm going to go make some jeans now. And she was like, good luck with that.
We went from like A to Z really fast.
Yeah, well, that's just me.
Fair. Okay.
But Rach, you've known that. You figured that out about me. I'm like, I don't do anything.
It's another thing
I start
that we
at
have
0
in common,
and then go to 100.
for sure. Yeah.
So I did that. And as you know, Rachel, like when you go out to start making clothes, like a lot of people will start by going to their local fabric store,
Mm-hmm.
at arts and crafts store. They'll buy the little patterns in the envelope.
Yep.
They'll get some fabric. I made all the mistakes, right? I bought the quilting fabric to make a dress. That was just not a good idea, but I didn't know, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I hated about the patterns is that just like with ready-made apparel, the person who designed the pattern has a specific body type, shape, size in mind when they build that pattern. And so once again, nothing fit. I had to, I mean, the nice thing about sewing your own stuff is that with enough time and practice, you can change the patterns to fit your body and your specific shape. And then you can get a nice custom fit.
Yep.
But I don't do things by half. So I was like, well, surely there must be a better way. How hard could it be to make my own patterns?
There you go.
So I started taking pattern making lessons online. Then I found out that the teacher who taught those pattern making lessons actually had a school not 2 blocks away from my place of work.
Oh, wow.
So I went to pattern making school. And then at the school, and I promise my story is almost over.
No, this is great.
At the pattern making school, there were a bunch of different classes. And one of the classes was on brand development and it's like history of fashion or something. And the idea was the final project was to present an 8-piece line that you've designed along with like a fake brand name and a fake customer base and a fake, mission statement and blah, blah, blah. And so because it was all make-believe, I was like, well, what would I want in the grand scheme of things? This is like 3 or 4 years after I started skiing, by the way, like this time has passed. And I was like, I really want to make a plus size women's ski line. And so I presented that. I was like, here, I've designed, puffy jackets and bibs and, regular jackets and a puffy skirt and all sorts of things. And Rach and I were like, wait a minute, I've heard of these
familiar.
Things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I presented that and my teacher pulled me aside and she, like after I presented it, she pulled me aside and she said, Raquel, you need to do this.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, no. I don't want to do this. Like, this is make believe. This is pretend. I work in tech. I make lots of money and I'm miserable. And that is the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. And she was like, yes, but you are not the only person who needs this. And unlike every other brand out there, you actually know this market. Most brands are made are spearheaded by people who don't necessarily match the market that they serve. Yeah. And I actually am my customer. And so she was like, if you do this, you're going to do really well. And like, it's needed. People need this. And I was just like, so that was in January or February of 2019.
Okay.
By spring of 2019, I was in New Zealand speaking at a tech conference. I was burnt out like you wouldn't believe. And I turned to my husband and I was like, I just want to give it all up and make pants. Like, can I just do that? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And so by June of 2019, I had created Alpine Parrot, like filed it at the state of California. Yep. And then by winter of 2019, I told I was like, I'm going to quit. And they were like, please don't. And I was like, nope, but really I am. And February 2020, I had my last day of work as an engineering manager and then immediately went over and started being full-time CEO at Alpine Parrot.
That's awesome.
And then 6 weeks later, the entire world shut down.
Yeah.
So it's been an adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So that's my story. Basically, I started a company to make outdoor apparel for people with bigger bodies like mine,
that's
who just want
amazing.
to go outside safely and comfortably. And since then, we had a very successful Kickstarter. We have made some clothes. We're in some stores and trying to get into more stores and make more clothes. And people literally cry when they put on our stuff because they've never had things that fit them.
I know. I
Like
think
that
that's so
before.
beautiful. Like what you're doing is, like that teacher that advised you, like was just so spot on. It's just
Yeah.
something that's missing from the market, and it's oddly missing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
the numbers that you went through, like the percentages, and like it's like screaming out to the whole apparel and fashion industry of like, why aren't we doing more of this? And I think you kind of stepping up to be a leader in this space is really, really cool. It's been really awesome to watch you, even over just the last year, like the kind of growth and like all of the amazing new things that you're doing is so exciting. I can't wait to see like what the next year
Thanks.
brings. And then like following that, it's just going to keep going up and up.
I mean, it's incredible. I just did the year in review post, and I was like at the beginning of like sitting down, I'm like, what did I even do this year? I didn't do anything. And then you start putting it down. You're like, okay, well, in January I did this, and then February I did, oh my gosh! And then you just realize we did a lot.
Yeah,
We did a lot in 22, and yeah, so 23 is going to be amazing, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, thanks.
Rach.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's genuinely been my pleasure to be a part of it, and I think as small business owners, we all do that, right? Like I just did the exact same thing, like wrapping up end of year numbers and looking at like what did I do in 22, and you kind of forget like, oh, I accomplished this, and this was my goal, and damn it, I hit it in September, and like there are a lot of like little things that we tend to forget as small business owners, and we forget to celebrate those small things, I think, along the way too.
So true. So true. I'm so bad at celebrating. I'm so genuinely bad at it. And it's so easy to get caught in the weeds, right? Like, because we're so focused on the trees that sometimes it takes a moment for us to step out and look at the forest and go, oh, snap.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
this
look what
amazing.
I did. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's very cool. Can you talk a little bit about your Kickstarter process? I feel like that's something I'd love to learn a little bit more about and just kind of hear you speak about that, because I wasn't part of the brand at that time.
Yeah, no, totally. So there's a lot to dig in here. There's a lot about like Kickstarter and the thought process, and the major things that I would want people to know are, one, your Kickstarter is not actually how you start your company. Like your company needs to start before Kickstarter. I mean, you can use Kickstarter to kind of validate your idea for sure, but it's really, the way I thought about it was, this is a marketing opportunity. It's not a sales opportunity. It's really about getting the name out there, getting people to become your supporters so that as you grow, they're sitting there right along with you and they're excited. And the other thing, and so like as a result of that first part is, don't expect to make any money off of it. Like if you can come out of your Kickstarter, fulfill all of your rewards, everything, and break even, you have succeeded. Like it's very, very difficult to make money off of a Kickstarter. And I don't think that's talked about a lot. People just see these like huge numbers of like, wow, this company raised $2 million or $200,000 or whatever. And the reality is they will walk away maybe with a couple $100s at the end, if they were actually successful. And then the other thing that I think people don't really think about or talk about very much with Kickstarter is your Kickstarter will succeed or fail before you've even launched. You need to have enough people behind you so that on your first day, you hit and exceed your goal.
Oh, wow.
Like you need to hit your goal within the first 24 to 48 hours. Otherwise it's just completely, it will not be as successful as you need it to be, which means that you have to spend, honestly, it took us about 8 months before we launched our Kickstarter to begin the process of preparing for it.
And so you were building community kind of over that 8 months, getting ready to let them into the Kickstarter. Okay.
Exactly. And I think there's a misconception. I think people are like, oh yeah, I'll just launch a Kickstarter tomorrow. And it's like, not if you haven't been preparing for it. Like, you have to have a good video. You have to have great shots, like photography, good words on your page. You've got to have like a lot of people already participating. So you actually spend a lot of money before you even start the whole thing. And you can do it. You don't have to spend like an astronomical amount. Like, we spent $5,000 on our video, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But and I know there are companies that spend tens of thousands of dollars on their videos, but then they're also raising hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, it's there's a lot to it, and definitely my biggest advice is, before you launch a Kickstarter, talk to a bunch of people about what it takes, and make sure that you have enough time before the Kickstarter launches officially to actually get everything in place. I am not a project planner, but I plan that project a lot.
An incredible, huge thank you to Raquel for joining me in today's episode. Stay tuned next week for the continuation and end of our conversation. See you then. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, unmarkstreet.com, where I do weekly trainings through my video channel, a monthly newsletter, and offer so many resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand.